Hi, Noon. Welcome to the Tea with Nikki.
Yay! Thank you so much, Nikki, for having me. I feel honored and I can't wait for this conversation.
Thank you so much. So just to kick it off, I want to ask, because you're an alignment and intimacy coach, and what does that actually mean? Because as many must just associate intimacy with sex, me being one of them, I was thinking, ooh, intimacy coach must be about sex. But can you just enlighten us what it actually means to be an alignment and intimacy coach?
Absolutely. So I'm an alignment and intimacy coach, and the reason I chose alignment was because they go hand in hand. So to realign yourselves to get into like somewhat of a state of flow, as we call it, where you feel connected and you kind of ride with your intuition and you kind of move into that space of feeling like there is a general flow and that you're aligned with what you're doing. So a less chaotic, disconnected atmosphere, that would be the alignment part. And why I say it comes hand in hand with intimacy is because if you are not aligned, you will likely struggle with intimacy, because intimacy being on a spectrum of all things intimate. So yes, most people think intimacy and they're like, great, we're going to go see someone and talk about sex all day. That's not, I mean, we do talk about
Damn,
sex.
disappointing.
We do talk about sex, absolutely, and techniques if that's really what people are looking for. However, majority of the time, I find our conversations focused more around what encompasses the alignment around our intimacy. How do we reconnect to our intimacy and to our intimate selves? So I hope that's answered the question, but really we focus on realigning oneself to themselves in their purpose, as well as then connecting to your ideal intimacy.
Yes,
and what that
it
looks
makes
like.
me think of that movie, The Love Guru, with Mike Myers. I think it's Mike Myers, and he says, intimacy, into me, I see. So now I'm just thinking, okay, those are the connecting dots now.
Exactly. I was going to say Esther Perel often says that's her description of intimacy. Into me, you see. And I've always thought that it has to be my most favorite description of intimacy.
And you also offer individual alignment, one-on-one's not essentially having to be with couples, but you also do it for relationships as well. In your experience, what do you think is the main reason or cause for someone being misaligned? Or is there also a similar reason as to why couples find it difficult to communicate in their relationships when they are misaligned?
Absolutely. So what a fantastic question. I would say a reason why individuals and couples, and they kind of go hand in hand here also, it isn't really not much of a difference. Why we tend to get misaligned in my personal experience with my clients is our enormous to-do list. We do not prioritize our intimacy or our self-care, self-discovery at all. That's kind of on the to-do list, like, toward the end. And even if you do have it in the to-do list, it's something that can quickly get dropped to the side if other things come up. You're like, oh, okay, I don't have time to go sit and journal because I need to rush to go fetch children or cook dinner or whatever it might be, do the dishes, laundry. We often fill our space with so much that we don't prioritize. We don't prioritize our time in relationships to communicate, to grow and evolve. And to seek those tools to grow and evolve our relationships and to realign. We as human beings are ever evolving. We are not stagnant. So once you know self or you know your partner, you cannot truly ever 100% know yourself or your partner. And I think by not prioritizing it, that's where we end up with disconnect. And with disconnect comes lack of communication. It's kind of that thing of like, it can snowball so quickly. You are great at talking, you have good conversation, and then all of a sudden the conversation is not happening, or you can't articulate or find the words, or you don't even maybe even know that there's a problem, you're just feeling disconnected.
So off the cuff of that, what would you say then would be a sort of top 3 tips for someone who's looking to align themselves or to introspect in a relationship?
Absolutely. So top tip number 1, 100% section of time to prioritize to have self-care and self-discovery. how do we give our best versions of ourselves to our partners or others if we are not our best versions of ourselves? How do we give our pleasure map to our partners when we don't even know what our pleasure map looks like? You can't tell someone what spot to hit if you don't even know what spot to hit. It's not their duty to find it, it's yours. You have to find it so you can give and communicate adequate directions as to how you like it and what actually you do enjoy and what you don't enjoy. So definitely prioritizing time for your own self-discovery and self-care first. Because if you are connected with your head and your body and your soul, most importantly, if you're connected into your body, it allows you to offer so much more to your relationships. And I say spectrum of relationships. I would then say, if you're in a relationship, definitely to create space for intentional time. So what intentional time is to create a space whereby you are dedicating, if you've got a block bucket, like a meeting in your calendar with your partner, I know it doesn't sound sexy, but you'll get maximum benefit from it. I know no one wants to be like, you know, I've got to book a meeting with my partner to have intentional time. We're supposed to be organic, right? We're supposed to just know, you love me, I love you. Now you must just know how we're meant to communicate and connect. But it's not. That's not how it works. We have to schedule time in. We've got loads on our to-do lists now. Our brains are constantly connected and activated. Therefore, we have to prioritize that time. And my biggest advocation in this for couples, and even when you're doing it alone, actually, set aside time for no technology. To really deepen that connection, you cannot have technology between you. And then I would say my last tip is to find tools and resources available to you to grow and evolve your connection, grow and evolve your communication, and grow and evolve your relationship with yourself or with your partner. Because we have this bizarre notion, I find, that mass majority of people, we want to assume it's supposed to be organic. We're just meant to meet our one true love. Why are we
soulmates?
Yeah, it's my soulmate. You must just know and understand. Newsflash, we are not mind readers. It's not possible. You have to grow and evolve by gaining tools and resources and guidance, whether that is booking a session with someone like myself, who's a coach who can give you guidance and ask thought-provoking, crafted questions that get your thought pattern and communication going in a different direction. Or maybe you need to seek counseling or therapy to work on past traumas so that you can, you know, kind of highlight and heal any triggers that you might feel, and being able to communicate and work through those. There are also multiple free resources. Now, thanks to technology, there are numerous websites, fantastic podcasts such as this, and great places to YouTube channels and wonderful professionals sharing their knowledge and on Instagram or whatever their platform might be.
The common misconception is that once you meet someone, you feel a natural connection and you think that's just going to evolve. And I think people forget that relationships take work, because we're all complex beings. We all have different interests. No two people are the same, whether you regard yourselves as soulmates or not. And you can get a soulmate in a friendship as well. But even friendship takes time and effort and work, you know. And I remember we discussed previously when we met, I'm going a bit off script here, but there's also that big misconception of that your partner has to be your everything. And I find that that also, you were mentioning, can be a really big downfall in relationships, because you have different friends for different reasons. So can you just dig more a bit into that?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, perfectly said about, you know, about us relying on one person, but also not, like, relationships take work. All relationships, family relationship, friendships, everything takes work and effort in order to grow. Nothing can grow from a place of comfort. We have to get a little uncomfortable in order to learn and grow. And that is 100% the same within any relationship that you might have. Esther Perel does a fantastic TED talk on this. And she really opened my eyes to it, because we have this notion, like you say, of we look to our partner to fulfill so much. And especially since lockdown, for a lot of people, we are at our homes together, we work together, we, you know, you're in the same space, you do groceries, you watch TV, you go to gym, you socialize, everything is together. There is no autonomy at all. And you lean into your partner for everything. It just is so much for one human being. That is why we come from a village, essentially. When we go like dial all the way back, we are village people. We're built into communities. And when you have a community of people around you, that's when you can really flourish and grow as a person, because you gain different assets from different connections that you have with people.
Yeah.
You can't possibly put all the pressure on your partner to be your everything. It's not possible. Put so much strain on a relationship also because we set these unrealistic expectations. And then when our partner doesn't meet that expectation, somehow it starts to crumble. And I always look at a relationship like a vase, like a glass vase. If you have compounding disagreements or compounding issues that are unresolved, it's like tiny hairline cracks that develop in your relationship. Yeah. And you need tools and resources in order to fix those cracks before you end up with an entire vase full of cracks that then shatters, and then it's too little too late. So we want to kind of fix the vase before the vase is broken, if that makes sense. Make it as sturdy and strong as we possibly can. And that requires leaning and outsourcing our needs and desires to those that, those that who can offer it. If you look at your friendships, for example, like you were just saying, you have different friends for different reasons. I know I certainly do. You have the girlfriends or the friends that you only go out drinking with and want a glass of wine to talk gossip and shit because you just don't want to think about the real world. You have people you want to strategize and build your business empires with and you trust wholeheartedly. You have friends you don't talk to for a year that can pick up the phone and be like, hey, and it was like you've been speaking every day in between. You have friends you can just sit comfortably on the couch and not say a damn word because that's your relationship. By outsourcing that to your friendships and to your community, family, community, friendships, whatever that looks like, you're alleviating a lot less pressure in your relationship. But not only that, you're adding a tremendous amount of curiosity into the relationship because now there's other.
And I think that's where the delicate balance comes in, because you become so reliant on your partner to be your everything. But then when I think the reason why people don't want to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you feel that if they aren't your everything, then you lose sight of the relationship. Meanwhile, if you're outsourcing your different interests, then you said you gain that curiosity, but as long as when you outsource your interests, there's support.
Absolutely. And it's also, to kind of highlight on that note, it's allowing space for your partner to be independent, to grow independently alongside you. We have this notion of moving into a relationship and being one. You are not one. You are never one. You are two solo, individual, independent human beings growing side by side, choosing to do life side by side. When you are becoming one and completely merged, you lose your identity. Yes. And if you lose your identity, what do you have to offer in your relationship?
But then also, how do you know what makes you happy and who Yaki's about, when you are wanting to align yourself? And talking about that becoming one, I hate the saying, my other half. No, I'm not a half. I am a whole. We are two whole beings together. I am not a half a human. So you are not my other half, nor will I be your other half. I want a whole person because I am a whole person. We're not one and a half either,
Absolutely. Oh, I ditto that 100%. 100%.
But let's delve back into the little bit of the sexual content, because I know that everyone's going to want to be hearing about that. So I want to know, what is the difference between sensuality and sexuality? Because I think they overlap, but they are different things as well.
Absolutely. So my description of what I think sexuality, and of course, like there are spectrums, and this is a bit more diverse. So for the shortness of this conversation, I would say sexuality is how people experience and express themselves sexually, which involves your erotic, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, social behaviors and feelings. It's how we express ourselves and our sexuality in physical, and all of those things and all of those concepts. Sensuality is, I would say, like, it's the desire to have connection, but that's not sexual. So sensuality is a pleasure. It involves a lot of connective pleasure, and anything that brings you pleasure. Now, I know immediately when I say the word pleasure, most people are like, right, so sex. No, let's. So sexuality, sex,
Bing, bing, bing.
sensuality, love. It's more of the connection, the pleasure. So if you think about sipping your tea, it's not sexual, that's sensual, because it hits your lips and you're feeling the heat and the taste and the textures and how it makes you feel. You're getting pleasure from that. Those are micro doses of pleasure. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And if we really really narrow it down, sexuality, think sex, more sexual type, physical, emotional, all those things, sex. And then sensuality is more of the love. It's the emotional pleasure that you get from connection.
On that basis as well, talking about sexuality, sensuality, let's bring the couple notion back in. So what would be, a tip from you, from your experience working with couples, to help them create a better sexual experience with their partner?
Communication. And I know that everyone's like, yeah, communication. Our brain is the biggest sex organ. We have to work on the way that we process information and put the information out. We are not mind readers. You cannot expect, no matter what and how connected you are to your intuition, you cannot expect that you would know what your person or the person you're in relation with wants. Assumption is the biggest killer in a relationship. I would say my number one tip for couples looking to enhance their sexual life and their intimacy would be to go and gain as many tools and techniques as you possibly can with the art of communication. And I say it's the art of communication because we were never taught ever, not that I can remember, we were never taught what adequate communication looked like. So how are we now all just meant to be professionals in communicating and figuring out? And by communication, I don't only mean vocal words that come out of our mouths. I mean body language communication, being able to read and understand body language, emotions, certain gestures, as well as vocal. And that's not just about your output, it's also about your input. And also, how are you figuring out how to articulate the information that you want? Half of us don't know what it is that we want half the time. I know I don't know about you, but when I go to restaurants, I'm just like, I can barely make up my mind on a menu.
Look at the menu.
I'm like, what do I want?
There's just too many options.
So process information and communicate that. So yeah, find tools, resources, guidance as to how to better your communication. And that is a muscle you have to practice. Unfortunately, you can't just hop out and go for a marathon run. It's not going to work. You have to train. If you want to strengthen that muscle, you've got to train it. If you want to have solid communication, you have to train. Yeah. So that would be my number one tip.
I would have to, not that I'm a coach or anything by any means, but for me, that would be the most important thing that I would think, because also you can't, not a mind reader, I can't smell what you like, you can't smell what I like. Like, let's have a chat. Let's make this great for both of us.
Exactly.
But the question I also always ask all of the women that come onto my podcast is that it's an open-ended question. There's no right answer. It's just something that's, been spoken about with masculinity, femininity. So what does feminine leadership mean to you?
For me, feminine leadership is about the people. It's leading for the people, to the people, to serve the people, making the people of the center of the objective of whatever you are leading them toward. The people of your community that you are leading are the front and foremost guidance to achieve that leadership, to go with whatever it is that you're leading them in. And that, as opposed to being like profit focused or image focused, it is about the people. And I think if you just take a very quick glimpse at government and how that's run, the polar opposite, government run, and I'm not a political person at all, but if I just compare a female leader like the president of New Zealand to any other male, and this is again gender specifying, so I'm not being gender specific, I'm just saying that drew inspiration as to the epiphany of what it is to be a leader for the people.
Yeah.
And there are multiple genders of all spectrums that have feminine leadership. I think it's, yeah, to kind of synopsis that, it was just an example about what feminine leadership looked like to me.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that answer. So moving on to one of our segments in the podcast called your ABCs of your career. So starting off with A, what was your amazing, affluent Oprah aha moment in your career journey?
So I don't know that I've really had my major Oprah moment yet. I know it's going to come, but I think if I just had an aha moment, it was probably when I found myself leaning into the sexual health and wellness area. I've gone through multiple careers trying to find my purpose and my drive and my passion, and I can be passionate about just about anything. But when I started my lubricant business, Liquid Gold Lube, it led me into the sexual health and wellness world, and it was like I got, you know, bitch slap, for a lack of better word, of this, oh, I'm here, I found my purpose, I now know what the fuck I'm meant to do on this earth. Oh, okay, this is my calling, this is my direction. And I had no idea what it'll look like or where I was going with it. And I'm still very much at the very, early stages of this section of my life, but in this industry. But that 100% was my aha moment. I was like, how did I not see this? This was what I was meant to do, you know, from the day dot. Did you
launch your Liquid Gold business and then start studying sexual health, or was it sexual health and then the Liquid Gold?
No, I started the lube business, and just by starting like basic surveys on lubricants, it blew my mind, A, how many people don't use lube or are embarrassed to talk about lube, and B, what they understood about lube. And I was like, oh my gosh, why is this not a conversation?
Yeah.
And I wanted to start the conversation. So I was like, well, I need to go get equipped with some knowledge so that I can speak some quality information. And that's how I started. So yeah, the lube led me to sexual health and wellness.
I love that. And where can we get the Liquid Gold? I know on Wellness Warehouse, I think it's available there.
Not yet. Like, we're almost in Wellness Warehouse. That's coming very, very soon, which is exciting. But you can get it direct on the website. Otherwise, you can go to Faithful to Nature. We're in a variety of different online adult stores. Matilda's Desire, a couple of pharmacies, Constantia Pharmacy, Redden Pharmacy. Yeah, there's a bunch of places, but otherwise, just our website. You can go straight to liquidgoldlube.co. Yeah.
Love it. And B, normally I would ask, what was a business blunder turned to blessing? But because we've had a little bit of a sexual conversation, I would like to ask, what has been a bedroom blunder turned to blessing for you?
So when I read this question, my mind ran a mile of all the sex mishaps I've had. And I was like, well, what's going to be the least TMI or the most palatable version? And I mean, to be the most like PC, because I mean, I don't know who's going to be listening to this or, whatever, but it was, I would say, like probably one of the best, most memorable blunder blessings I ever had was early stages of my now 14-year relationship.
My husband doesn't mind you sharing this.
I mean, this is my work, so I share a lot more than I'm sure he appreciates. But no, it has nothing really to do with him, so I can share. But well, kind of. But I in the beginning phases of our relationship, I was so terrified that I was going to fart or like make too much ugly fart sound noises in bed, that I was just like, oh my gosh, I was terrified. Like, quite literally did not fart in front of my now husband for about a year and a half. He never ever even caught it one time. I would be bloated to a point of discomfort. I would be so terrified, just to put that in perspective. And then we're in the middle of a session and I let rip the biggest queef ever, and I died 1,000 deaths. So that was the blunder part of it. But the best part of it was that he just giggled and continued. And I was like, wait, hold on, is this not catastrophic? And he was like,
the world not ending.
Move on. And I was like, wait, my whole world just paused and shattered for a second because air flowed through my vagina. And he was like, it's a human reaction. Like, it's okay. We're doing a lot more than that. Like, it's okay. And that was the blessing in it. It helped me release and realize that we're human beings and sex is messy. It's loud. It's imperfect. And that was the best part of all of it, because it allowed me to really lean in and kind of just enjoy it a lot more. I wasn't constantly concerned about, what sounds I was making, what I looked like, how I presented. I knew that if he wanted to be intimate with me, then he's choosing to be intimate with me, the whole of me. And that was the best blessing ever.
That's such a beautiful blessing. And I think so many women along the way also forget that. I mean, I just had a conversation the other day with a good friend of mine, and she was like, oh, my abs are gone. I'm not as fit as I was. And I was like, you are still beautiful. You're a human. Your body goes through changes and you are still beautiful. We all need to remember that still, because and I don't even want to call it like holiday weight, because then it still gives it this power where it's like, no, my body's just gone through changes and I'll get it where I want it to be again when I can.
Yeah, exactly.
And C, your cinematic worthy comical moment.
So I found this question really hard to answer, because to many others, apparently, I could be quite funny with my blunt directness. I don't see those moments, maybe. But I think one moment for me that I found really funny for myself was, so I am very, very, very lucky that my parents are very supportive in whatever I choose to do. And they're from Zimbabwe, so I expected maybe a little bit of kickback in the, like, oh goodness. But I think they just always knew I was going to do something a little off the beaten track.
Per the little unorthodox.
Put it that way. And so I'm very lucky. My parents are super supportive of my career choices and believe in me. But the comical moment came when my dad was on the phone to me, and he's sitting in the pub with all of his mates, and someone was like, oh, he was talking about the lube. I was like, oh, I'm going to send a shipment there to get to other people. And people heard him talking about lube, and they were like, it's happening. And then people were like, Django, what are you doing? Who are you talking to about lubricant? Thinking it was like maybe a saucy little sideline. And he's like, no, it's my daughter. They were like, which daughter? And he's like, the sex worker. I was like,
the sex worker.
I was like, retract. Now there's an entire bar full of people who know exactly who I am. And he called me a sex worker. And I was like laughing my ass off. And I was like, Dad, I'm not a sex worker. He's like, but you do work in sex. And I was like, well, yes. And he's like, but you work. Yes. Okay, so you're a sex worker.
Logical.
Touche. I am now known as the sex worker who produces lube, which is fantastic, and I thought was absolutely hysterical. So news flew around the
You should use it as like a tagline, sex worker.
I feel like I should, because it'll certainly get some attention, that's for sure. Although I feel like some of the attention might not be quite the one that I want. My bookings might change.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we're bringing the interview down to close, and I like to end the interview off with a quick fire round of questions. So just whatever comes to the top of your head, answer away. Okay. So morning or evening?
Ooh, I'd say morning now. I'm in my 30s, so I've finally met my morning self.
Coffee or tea?
Depends on the time of day. I'm going to say tea.
If you could live in any book, which book would it be?
Great question. Off the top of my head, 50 Shades of Grey. Not for the quality of writing at all, just for the story. I think it was sexy as fuck.
One thing in your daily routine or ritual that you couldn't live without?
Cuddles with my fur children, for sure, or a dip in the ocean.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, couldn't imagine a day without cuddling my fur children.
I love it.
Yeah.
And last question, 3 people that you would have over for a dinner party, dead or alive.
Ooh. Okay, Esther Perel, because I'm obsessed. I think her work's phenomenal. Should be a great conversation also. Brene Brown, because total fangirl over here.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And probably Jimmy Carr, just to add a total spanner in the works. I think he's hilarious. And he would add excellent flavor. Him or Kevin Hart, probably just for the humor of seeing how that conversation would go.
Oh, those conversations around that table would be enthralling. Can I join as well?
Yeah, 100%. And you, obviously.
Thank you.
I'm assuming this is dinner for us, right?
Yes,
You and
yeah,
me
we're hosting.
yeah. Okay, then yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Niu, for taking the time to chat with me today. I've really enjoyed this, and I hope that some people definitely find, and I think they will find a lot of value in what you've had to say as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me on your platform and allowing me to have this necessary conversation. It was wonderful. So thank you so much.